Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Very serious tone today. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line is 712-770-9418. 712-770-9418. That's provided by Global Store. If it sounds like I'm out of breath, I am. And, oh, by the way, Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. Class, it's just me today. And I'm frosted. I'm livid. I'm angry. I'm disappointed by the people whom I thought were my friends. They have let me down. They've misrepresented who they are. I'm not talking about all of them, but a percentage that just is unacceptable. During this corona panic, we're finding out who our friends are and who they're not. And my circle has gotten really small. And that's a good thing. Because I used to have to carry these other people. I don't have to carry them anymore. The information that you're getting from some broadcasters is absolutely wrong, in my opinion. Absolutely wrong. And if you follow them, and if you waste your time listening to their theories about who done it, you will be in worse shape. I'm hoarse. My voice is shot. I've been talking to people for days nonstop. I mean, every minute I have that I'm not preparing, I'm talking to people. Some get it, but not many. I'm trying to wake up the dead. It's impossible. Absolutely impossible, and I'm at my wit's ends. And so, even my own family, and I'm not talking about people at the farm, I'm talking about blood relatives. I can't wake them up. The reason that we had the Get Prepared Expos was because I wanted to wake up my family, my extended family, you know, those who you don't see very often, those who used to see, you know, family picnics in the summer. I used to call them barbecues now. I don't see them anymore. I tried to wake them up. And they wouldn't pay attention to me, so I thought, all right, I'll just have an event and we'll bring some experts, people who come from all over the country. Maybe they'll believe them. Well, none of my family showed up. None of my family listens to the broadcast. We've got more important things to do. I have no idea what that is. So the reason I'm on the radio was because in order to promote the expo, I had to have some kind of advertising. And I talked to radio stations about how to advertise, and they said, you need your own show. That's how that happened. It was all to teach my blood relatives how this goes. But they're not interested, and I can't help them. It's too late. There's nothing I can do to help them. And even if they were to find out where we are, I can't help them. We don't have enough pillows, blankets, toothbrushes, toothpaste, baking soda, salt. We don't have enough. We haven't prepared for everybody. We can't. We're farmers. Farmers are broke. So, here we are. Today's broadcast is just me. I don't have to bite my tongue because of someone else on the air with me. I can say what I want. I can say it the way I want. And I've got to tell you, the longer I've been broadcasting, the more I disagree with people who are on the air, including here. And my policy has been to let the instructor have their say. And it's painful sometimes because I think they're flat out wrong. So today it's just me, and I've decided I will not have any other instructors on. And I'll just tell you what I think. And that's where we are today. So, unless you have an all-points bulletin, something absolutely important that you have to say, something that is factual, that you feel you need to share with the class, you may call. And I'll take your call. Otherwise, but if it's just you feel, you think, today's not the day for that. If you call, it's 866-582-9933. Let the phone ring. Our engineer is really busy. Jason is really busy. He will answer the phone. But that would be for something like, here's what's happened, here's what you saw. You'd have to say it quickly and succinctly, and it has to be absolutely factual. No, I think, or this might be, only for facts. Okay, so here's what we know. This is going to be a very disturbing broadcast, and if you've got a light stomach, well, you need to go someplace else. Some of this information comes from thedailymail.com. Some of it comes from Zero Hedge and other sources. Italy is now under lockdown, martial law. The military is in place on the streets. In the United States, people are on lockdown, and they're called self-quarantine, and they've been told to work from home. The Internet has already experienced a slowdown. In Europe, Netflix is slowing down 25%. They're throttling back. At the same time, your Internet providers that charge you by the bit have decided they're going to remove the throttle back. They could have given you greater bandwidth, as you get toward the end of your purchased allotment of bandwidth. They are now turning on the spigot full volume. So they've been cheating you all along, but now they've decided that since the Internet's slowing down, that you can have full bandwidth, what you paid for already. What they changed the terms and conditions to, unlimited, but, if you use too much, we don't think we like that, and they slow you down. I've measured the Internet bandwidth here at the farm. And with people being told to work from home, my number is down 25%. That's the bandwidth reduction that I've seen because more people are using the Internet. And what are they using it for? Well, obviously. Obviously, they're watching movies and playing games. Literally. The California governor issued a statewide stay-at-home order. And he warned that 56% of the residents of California will be infected. At least 4 U.S. senators unloaded their stock after classified briefings in January. If we have time, I'll mention who these parasites are. Literally, they knew there was going to be a meltdown. Literally, they knew there was going to be a collapse. And what did they do? They didn't tell you. They dumped their stock and shut their mouths. These are the people who tell you, we're fighting for you. These are the parasites of society. And what should happen to them? Well, they should be arrested for insider trading. They should be arrested for treason. Then they should be tried, convicted, drawn, and quartered. That's my opinion. Class, this is a Corona panic reality check. When I say Corona panic, that is my term. You might hear it more and more. You might hear the word panic more and more. We've been saying it for a long time. I suggest you put down any distractions, sit upright in your seats, pay attention, take notes, and then meet with your family and discuss these topics and act immediately. Monday may be too late. I'm going to give you a series of thoughts that I've put together that just tell you how real this is. Okay. New York Post. A New Jersey family has already been ravaged by the coronavirus and has lost a fourth member to the deadly disease, according to a report on Thursday. And Mr. Fusco died at a medical center in Freehold. A cousin and Fusco family lawyer told NewJersey.com. So Fusco was among four siblings being treated for the disease at the hospital, where his mom, Grace Fusco, died Wednesday night. Another of Grace's 11 offspring, Carmine, died earlier Wednesday in Pennsylvania, following last week's death of his sister. 19 spouses and children who were in contact with the sickened family members since March 10th, that's not too long ago, right, were tested for coronavirus and quarantined in their homes. 3 of the family members had died as of yesterday, and now there are 4 dead. So when somebody says to you that the coronavirus is a hoax, a lie, a fraud, how do you respond to that, what I just told you? And a radio talk show who says this is just like the flu, just like the common cold, they say that the coronavirus is a hoax. Talk shows and talk show hosts that air that, in my opinion, are irresponsible. I've mentioned that before that the GDP will get us killed. Here's an example. In California, San Rafael, there's an article, KPIX, Channel 5, television. Amid the coronavirus scare, sterilizing cleaning wipes are flying off the store shelves. Unfortunately, many of those wipes are ending up in the sewer system. A lot of people are using increasing numbers of those wipes to keep things clean out of coronavirus concerns. Workers at sanitation and sewage districts across the California Bay Area want to stop people from using wipes because they're clogging up the pipes. So here's what happens. We mentioned this weeks ago, that if a person throws these type of wipes, these are synthetic fabric, they do not decompose, like maybe cotton, wood. What happens is these pipes clog up the screens. These screens take out the big chunks of things that float down the sewer system. You flush whatever it is down the toilet, liquids, solids, and people flush rags, tampons, and you name it down there. They clog up these screens. And then when the screens get clogged, they restrict the flow of sewage. Then the sewage pipes back up. And then you have raw sewage on the streets. So people are panicking, and they should, because this is the real deal, but they're doing stupid things. Now, the sewage systems are backing up all over the country. We'll be right back. Okay, class, it's just me. So, who are these senators who have sold out America? Who are these traitors? Who are these people who knew that the corona panic was coming and did not warn you? Who are they? Well, there's Senator Kelly Loeffler, Senator Jim Inhofe, Senator Dianne Feinstein, and Senator Richard Burr. Now, Burr is the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. These people all knew what was coming, and they sold their shares of securities because they knew that the market was going to collapse. By the way, it is. It is collapsing. And some reports say that the market for securities has dropped 50% from its median. Okay, so back to the concern about these wipes. They do not decompose. because they don't decompose, they stay in the sewer system, and they plug up these great big screens. Now, to fix that, men have to go down into the sewer system with tools, hand tools. And think of it like hose and rakes and grappling hooks and things like that. And they put wading boots on, they put respirators on. They are swimming in sewage, literally. And they have to pick out this glop and pull it out of the sewer system. And that's because the generally dumb public is using hand wipes and flushing them down the toilet. Now, explain to me how it's possible for people to not realize that flushing this thing down the toilet is, how is it possible that they think that's a good idea? Does that mean that there's no trash receptacle near them? Obviously. Obviously, they're morons. And they are the GDP, and they're the ones who are going to get us killed. Now, the bottom line for this is that the marketeers say that these are flushable. And actually, they are. You can flush them. But that's like saying that marbles are edible. So, if a person flushes these wipes, disinfecting wipes down the sewer system, it will clog it. And if you eat marbles, you'll die. But, yep, marbles are edible, but they'll kill you. So don't do that. And these wipes, these disinfecting wipes, will clog the sewer system. And if you feel you have a septic system and you don't have to worry about it, it'll clog the septic system. And not only that, what happens is these things are so strong, they clog the pumps that clean out the sewer system and clean up your septic system. So if you have some guest come to your house and they flush, feminine products down your toilet, or these wipes, and they don't tell you, eventually it will damage your septic system. That's what I mean by the GDP. They're going to get us indirectly killed by the stupidity of their actions, their ignorance. Here's a story from the New York Post. Now, Kevin Harris is 55 years old, and you've been told that, if you're in reasonably good health, if you're young, you're going to survive this. It's just old people that die. Well, and what's so bad about it? People are saying it's like the flu. People die of the flu. It's just like a common cold. Well, here's the real story. So Kevin Harris is 55. He's currently at Mercy Health, St. Joseph Warren Hospital. And it started out as a tickle in his throat before bed, and by the next morning, it felt like the worst flu ever. And by the time Kevin Harris was admitted to the hospital in Ohio, 5 days later, he thought he was suffocating. The doctors at St. Joseph Hospital in Warren were certain that Harris, who's 55 years old, had pneumonia. But 3 days later, he got the real diagnosis, coronavirus. One of the doctors had tears in his eyes when Harris asked if he would live. Another doctor just shrugged and mumbled, "I don't know." I'll tell you the rest of the story when we get back. Okay, class, it's just me today. And I've mentioned very early on that our farm is in lockdown. We are a biosecure facility. So we're not letting people just show up. Our gate is locked. And when I mentioned weeks ago that we were on lockdown, I even read the emails that I sent to some of our instructors. What I tried to say in a polite way was, don't even think of coming here. Don't think of coming here. And, if you haven't prepared, that's your problem. I mean it. I can't believe the stupidity that abounds in the United States, even people who proclaim that they're smart, even broadcasters who act like they're smart. So, Mr. Harris was diagnosed with the coronavirus. And the article goes on to say, and I don't like reading articles, but I have to today, because I have to put this in perspective, because it what is it? It's like there's very, very, very few people who actually believe what I believe, that this is real and people are going to die. So I have to read these articles because here are a few opinions. And this time the mainstream media is right. And the alternative media is nuts when they say this is a lie, this is a hoax, this is a fraud. Yeah, maybe some of these conspiracy theories may pan out to be true. But the point is, if you don't survive it, if you're just wasting your time thinking about who done it, you probably won't make it. You need to act right now. I mean, seriously act. And the Finelli family is in panic mode. Panic mode. And I'm here to say that if you don't feel a sense of panic, you're stupid. I don't normally talk this way, but I'm trying to make a point. So, Mr. Harris was diagnosed with the coronavirus. They told me, the article goes on to say, they told me they didn't have a cure. Harris told the New York Post from his hospital room where he was still hooked up to oxygen on Thursday night, I just wanted them to tell me if I'm going to live or die. Harris, father of 4 children with 3 grandchildren, believes he was exposed to the coronavirus at another hospital when he went in for an appointment that wound up being canceled. Within a couple of days, he said, I felt like he couldn't clear his throat. He couldn't stop coughing. By the next day, he had a fever and headaches. But the worst part was the body aches. On a scale of 1 to 10, he said, the pain was 15. You know how when the nurse says, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? You know, you say, 3, 4, 5. He said on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 15. The pain is off the charts. Everything hurts. Nose, toes, ears, and ears, Harris said. It was like one big ball of pain. He said he cried like a little girl when he moved from his bed to his nearby chair. 3 days after his symptoms, he said the fever began to wane and it seemed like he might get better, but then it returned with a vengeance. He felt like he was choking every time he breathed. Imagine your lungs turning solid. It's like suffocating without holding your nose, Harris said, who owns an auto body shop and typically runs 5 miles a day. So this is not some old guy. This is not some guy who's not healthy. People who run are pretty strong, and they've got pretty good lung power. They can't run, right? Every time I lay down, my breathing gets lower and lower, though I thought my lungs would fail me. I was screaming for mercy and praying to God. By the time Harris made it to the hospital, it was taking him an hour to move 50 feet to his bedroom. He had to stop twice, lie on the floor, catch his breath before reaching the door. Yet his doctors were incredulous when he tested positive for the coronavirus. He was the hospital's first case. When the doctor said they would try everything, Harris said he was eager to fight. The doctor said to me, look, I've been on the phone with people all over the world who are trying everything they can. We are not going to let you die. Harris said the doctors gave him a cocktail of vitamins, including lots of vitamin C, cough medicine, and experimental antiviral medication, malaria vaccine, and antibiotics. They told him they were trying to jumpstart his immune system. They also told him to pray. On Sunday, his fever broke after almost 2 weeks, and on Tuesday, he used the bathroom for the first time by using a walker. His pain was now half of what it was before, a 7, he said. Still in complete isolation, he received no visitors in the hospital. Every 6 hours, his temperature is taken by a medical staff wearing gloves, a yellow paper suit, and an inverted face shield with an N95 mask underneath and a surgical mask over the top. They gave him cough and pain medications. There's a doctor who is an infectious disease doctor at the hospital, told Harris that he's not out of the woods yet, but he's improving a little every day. He said it could be a couple months before he's on his feet again. Harris said he was afraid for the worst. His daughter is a registered nurse in Ohio. He's a tough guy, and he's been through a lot. So to hear him tell me that he thought he wasn't going to make it was sad and scary. Harris has said that he learned that everybody needs to be ready for coronavirus. People have to take this seriously. The virus is a monster trying to kill you. Buying all the toilet paper is a waste. All this toilet paper is a waste of money. You won't need it if you get sick, he said. That's the end of the article. So for people who say this is no worse than the common cold, well, I guess that's an opinion that is not accurate. So recently I wanted to buy some, this is, I'm off the article now. Recently I wanted to buy some concrete mix, 80-pound bags for the farm. So I called the company where I normally buy these things, and I got the price, and I have an account there. I have an account for the farm. We've been buying, probably for 15 or 16 years from the same company. I know the manager. I can call them on the phone. I can say, here's what I'd like to do, and they'll have it ready for us. So I called them, and I said, I'd like to buy X number of bags of 80-pound sacks of concrete mix, also known as sackcrete, for the farm. And I asked them if it could be prepackaged and placed on a pallet, shrink-wrapped, so it could be, we just arrive, call them and say when we're going to be there. If it could be packaged on the pallet, wrapped in shrink wrap, and so they could just come out with their forklift, put it on the truck, hand us the piece of paper. We could sign it, the sales slip, sign it, saying that we received it, and they could bill us via the mail. The manager said, appreciate that. That is what we're doing now. That is the policy. That is how we handle transactions now. It's called curbside service or carry-out service. That's how, when you go to a lumberyard, they're transacting business. You tell them what you want from outside the building. You don't go in the store anymore. And they gather it for you, and they load it on your truck, and you either hand them a credit card, or you hand them a check, or you hand them something. You sign it, off you go. And when I talked to the manager, I told him that's what I wanted to do. I said, we don't have it, but we want to make sure that you're protected and we're protected as best we can. And that's how we handled it. I suggest you consider doing the same thing. Business is coming to a screeching halt. Because in a couple of weeks, maybe, if that long, there won't be any buying lumber. There won't be any buying sackcrete. There won't be any buying any plumbing fittings. And that's the message we've been trying to tell people, and they don't believe it. This is moving so fast. I get up in the middle of the night. It's not just me. There are other instructors who get up in the middle of the night. Joey does too. It's like Joey and I are getting up at the same time. It's like our alarm clocks go off in the middle of the night at the same time, and we both wake up. And we plan what we have to do. We do the research on the computers, figure out what needs to be done, who's got it, where it is, and how can we possibly get it without touching it. How is that possible? That's what we're working on. That's what you should be working on. So this Biogen employee, Biogen, who allegedly flew from Massachusetts to Los Angeles and then to China, and then tested positive for the coronavirus. This employee is under investigation for concealing symptoms and putting fellow travelers at risk of infections. So according to the LA Times, this Chinese citizen living in Massachusetts became ill with corona symptoms and was denied testing when she went to a local hospital. Newspaper said she decided to fly to China through Los Angeles, took fever-reducing medications before boarding the plane, and lied to flight attendants. This gal's now hospitalized. According to Chinese law, she could face up to 3 years imprisonment or detention with possible forced labor of up to 7 years in prison. So, to add an exclamation point to that, I know a trucker. And he's related to someone who works in a business that has connections to the Chinese. And his business or his connection to the Chinese told him that when people are infected and under quarantine in China and they just wander off, they get shot. They get shot. Can I prove it? No. So just consider that as hearsay right now, or a rumor. One police department in Oregon posted a reminder on their Facebook page. Yeah, police have Facebook pages. Can you imagine that? Asking the public not to call for an emergency if they run out of toilet paper due to the coronavirus outbreak. It's hard to believe that we have to even post this. The police department in Newport, Oregon wrote, "Do not call 911 just because you ran out of toilet paper. You will survive without our assistance." That's what they said. Next story. The governors in 5 states, California, Ohio, Illinois, Massachusetts, and Washington, closed bars, restaurants, and wineries in an effort to slow the spread of the coronavirus. In other parts of the country, mayors and of major cities have considered similar restrictions. In Ohio, the governor said bars and restaurants can stay open for carry-out and delivery, but we can't have people congregating and seated. He says, I'm aware this will impact many good workers. He wrote this on Twitter. I can't tell you how sorry I am, but we will work to mitigate the suffering. It's our goal for everyone to get through this. Every day we delay, more people will die. In California, Governor Newsom said all bars, wineries, brew pubs, and nightclubs should close, and asked that those over 65 self-isolate. Self-isolate. That means lockdown. A few hours after the governor's suggestion, the Los Angeles mayor said that he was closing bars, restaurants, except for takeout, delivery, nightclubs, and entertainment venues effective midnight, Sunday, and until at least March 31st. Class, if you can't feel that lockdown of borders, state lines, county lines, years ago, I built one of the very first landline to video conferencing systems. This was back in 1993. And it would share a voice and video and data and images simultaneously. You could use a microscope with it. You could send an image live. You could talk about the image from a microscope to a person on the other end of a landline with just this piece of hardware and a PC. And we did it with very low horsepower. We did it with like 50 megahertz. And, now we have gigahertz computers, right? Well, it worked fine. And what I'm trying to tell you is we were able to build this in 1993. And then I was involved in pioneering phone calls to computer access, press 1, press 2, etc., for the banking sector. Today, technicians are scrambling to move work computers to home computers and provide access to the work servers from home. So it's just like sitting at your work computer, but you're at home. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is I know how to do it, and I have done it, but someone's going to have to program it. Can it be done? Yes. Is it easier to do than it was when I was involved? Yes, it's easier now. But it still requires some effort. So if you think about it, all these work-from-home jobs that you hear people are moving to, it requires typically the phone calls still go into the central automatic call distributor, ACD, or they go into the telephone switch at the company. And then you press 1, press 2, and then your call gets routed to the right department. But now it has to be rerouted from that department to the home phones. And somebody's got to program these computers to reroute those calls. And then if you think about it, companies are going to have to reimburse somehow the employees for the extra costs. Because let's say they don't have a landline. Who has a landline today? I mean, besides a few of us. So some people have phone cards. So who is going to pay for all of this shifted cost? Since people are going to be working at home. Now, I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying a whole bunch of somebody's have to figure out how to do this. So it's going to take a little bit of time. And another way of thinking about this is, those government employees who are now being told to work from home. I know they're being told to work from home. So what do government employees do? What do they do that they can do from home? You'll have to tell me, because I don't know. They don't do much anyway. But what they do is they collect money. And what they do is they record documents. And what they do is witness signatures. And what they do is collect data from you in person, because sometimes you have to show up and say, no, really, it's really me. Say, there's my license. Here's my social security number. Here's my identification. Here's a piece of mail that came from my house that shows that I actually live there. So when you prove your address and things like that, you have to show up. Or at least they demand you show up, right? So how are they going to work from home? They're not going to be able to work from home. This is an illusion. This is so that your tax dollars can keep paying them, so they don't whine and lose their homes and their cars and the benefits that they have. So they say they're working from home. They're not working from home. They're just saying they're working from home. So you can continue to fund their lifestyles. Moving on, there's a former Webster County, Missouri Sheriff's deputy. Now, Webster County is the next county over from us. So it's not like we don't know where it is. Well, this former Webster County, Missouri Sheriff's deputy was sentenced Friday to 15 years in prison after he admitted to sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl. So this guy was sentenced to prison as part of a deal with prosecutors in exchange for him pleading guilty to child molestation, sexual exploitation of a minor, and possession of child pornography. I want you to think about that. So is he the only guy? Are there more? So the court documents say that the victim told authorities that this deputy touched her inappropriately and forced her to touch him. And the authorities say they found child porn on his devices, on one of his devices during the investigation. Now, the victim said that the sheriff's deputy had manipulated her into keeping the abuse secret by threatening to kill himself if she reported it. So what this deputy said was the equivalent of, if you tell anybody, I'm going to kill myself. So the victim kept this quiet for a while. And then someone else, I guess, reported it. It was reported after a hotline call to the state's Children's Division that sparked an investigation. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. U.S. jobless claims may reach 2.25 million for the week ending March 21st. That's this week. March 21st is tomorrow. So the jobless rate is skyrocketing. Now, when these people don't have jobs and their unemployment insurance runs out, that's when they stop paying their mortgage payments, their car payments, their rent, their utilities. That's what this money is all about, that the government keeps saying is coming like real soon. And it keeps getting pushed back and pushed back. And they keep changing the numbers. These guys don't know what they're doing. They really don't know what they're doing. And please, don't place the lives of your family in the hands of these greedy, selfish parasites. I'm talking about people like senators. They've proven they're traitors. They've proven it. They've proven that they don't work for you. And I hope that these 4 get tried and convicted for their crimes of insider trading, their selfishness, has put them in front of lives. That's who these people are. The IRS is extending the tax deadline. Traditionally, filing your 1040 is required by the government. Well, they require that you volunteer to file by April 15th. It's now been moved to July 15th. That's a 3-month extension. Now, why would they do that? Because the country is in panic. The world is in panic. And I have to ask you, is it possible that every head of every country has been conned into taking down their economy, letting their people die, if this is a hoax? Do you think that's possible? Do you think that American Airlines would stop all the flights that they've stopped if this is a hoax? You know, they're parking, right now they are parking airplanes in the desert in Arizona. They have a runway, and they land the planes there and they park them there. And the reason they park them there is because it's not very humid, and there won't be much mold growing on the inside of these airplanes that are parked there. Now, they park them there because airplanes are too good to throw away, but not good enough to fly. Well, now they're putting airplanes that are good enough to fly there because it's cheaper to store them there than it is to store them other places. They've taken airplanes out of service, lots of them. There are now 6 cases of the coronavirus in Springfield, Missouri. Last week there were 2. So a week later there are 6. That tells you that the number of cases seems to be doubling every few days. Now, Springfield, Missouri is not alone. The number of cases of people infected seems to be doubling every few days, maybe every several days. Yesterday, the health department announced the 5th Greene County case was from Greene County of Springfield, Missouri. Was from a household contact with an international traveler who previously tested positive for the virus. The 6th case in Greene County was someone who traveled domestically to an impacted area, according to the news release. Both of those people have voluntarily gone into quarantine, and the health department is investigating whether anyone else has been exposed. Now, they say that person and French travelers who later tested positive for the virus visited local restaurants and stores over the course of several days. And they have the locations of these stops that these people made that were infected. So on Thursday, on March 5th, they had lunch at Bruno's Italian restaurant. Then they went shopping at the Branson Landing. You've all heard of Branson, right? It's like the Las Vegas of Missouri. And then they had dinner at Lambert's Cafe in Ozark, Missouri. That was Thursday. The next day, Friday, the international travelers had breakfast at Hemingway's and shopped at Bass Pro. I'm sure you've all heard of Bass Pro. It's huge. I'm pretty sure Bass Pro's in a panic right now. Then Thursday, March 12th, the 4th case had a dinner meeting in a private room at Ocean's Inn. I suppose that's a restaurant. And Friday, the next day, March 12th, the 4th case had lunch at Big Biscuit on South Campbell. That's a road in the city of Springfield. And the article said that previous information from the health department did not include the trip to Lambert's Cafe. Now, if you travel in the area of Springfield, Missouri, you'll see billboard after billboard for Lambert's Cafe. It's like a place where lots of travelers stop. It's sort of a destination, believe it or not. I'm not saying the food's good or not. I'm just saying that they have so many billboards, people stop there. There's something pretty interesting. You might have heard me talk about the James River Assembly of God Church. The James River Assembly of God Church that reportedly decided to remain open last week, regardless of county government recommendations to cancel services. You know, they host about 15,000 worshipers a week. Well, late Wednesday night, the Springfield area-based Assemblies of God World Missions announced on social media that its leader has tested positive for coronavirus. Can you imagine? Praise the Lord. Verizon on Tuesday said that it saw a 75% increase over its networks, meaning they saw increased use over its networks in the past week due to online gaming with video streaming up more than 12%. And overall traffic, they say, is up about 20%. Last week, several major broadband providers loosened restrictions and boosted internet speeds for customers. They loosened restrictions. You know, that's where they tell you that they're going to give you one thing, but they give you less. That's what loosening restrictions means to me. People are shifting to working from home and are not really working. They're not really working all that much from home. Many government workers who are at home are pretending to work from home. So actually, when you think about it, the reason government employees work in most instances is to access their database computers and input in-person information about us, store records from us, accept payments from us, not much of which is going to be happening from home when they are pretending to work from home. So I measured the internet bandwidth at the farm a couple days ago, and it's down 24%, which corresponds to Verizon's announcement that overall internet use is up 20%. So the numbers are close. I'm sure that if you go to, some website like speedtest.com, you will find that the amount of bandwidth that you have is less than what you're used to. Try going to a site like Walmart.com and buying something. I've been looking at things that people might be buying, like flour, it's out of stock. Dried soups, mostly out of stock. Things that you need. Hey, why is it that we can't buy flour? Why is that? Because people panic when they can't have bread. So people want to shop from home, and you're going to find out that if you try to buy things, and like dog food, like let's say you have a big dog, you should be buying dog food. And you can buy it online. You can go to Walmart.com and buy it online. If you have a Sam's Club account, you can buy it from Sam's Club if they have it. But they say that stock keeps changing, and they may or may not have what you want to buy when you want to have it. Now, if you're willing to spend a lot of money, you can buy, soup for $10 a can on Amazon. But that soup used to be $1.50. Now it can be almost $50, depending on how much the individual seller wants for that can on Amazon.com. Amazon had to shut down one of its centers because one of its people tested positive for the coronavirus. So everything's humming along at breakneck speed, and then it stops. We talked about random walk. Random walk is it's something that you learn in finance and economics classes. If your instructor is on the ball and knows anything. So random walk will tell you that everything will hum along just fine until something happens that's kind of unexpected. It can happen, but it really isn't expected. Kind of like the coronavirus. So everything's, doing all right. And then this random event happens. We'll use an example of the coronavirus. Then everything starts falling apart. Then you can't go into stores. They change the hours. They're out of stock. The employees don't want to help you. Their movement is restricted. That's random walk. And that's from this event called the coronavirus. It also happens for a shorter period when, There's an assassination attempt on a president in the United States. Now, I'm not suggesting that anybody go and try to shoot the president. I'm not saying that at all. But it happened when Ronald Reagan was shot. Yeah, he was shot. There was an assassination attempt on President Ronald Reagan, and the markets went nuts. And they should have, because people panic when the boss gets attacked. So many people have been conned into paying hard-earned money into paper investments. That'd be like the stock market. That'd be like retirement accounts. So during the last month, the average market portfolio, let's say those who had an average portfolio of $200,000 had, within the last month, they've lost about 60,000 of that. They have about 140,000 left. Think about that. So, at the same time that people have lost money or value in their paper investments, gold and silver have not increased. But they would if unmanipulated markets return. Precious metals would be worth much, much more if we restored honesty in the markets. But the markets are manipulated. We'll be right back. Class, so what I'm doing today is giving you a recap of some of the events that are happening that prove to you that this is not normal times. I'm proving to you that you're going to be facing some very serious hardships, and there's hardly anybody that you're going to be able to trust. I'm seeing it all around. I'm seeing it all around everywhere I go. It's hard to trust people. You know, I used to be able to trust them, but now that things are getting more difficult, and now that they're in deep financial straits, it's hard for them to want to help you. The wholesale price of gasoline at the New York Harbor, and that's the wholesale price. So you have to add to it the taxes, the state and federal and local and county taxes, if they apply to you. The wholesale price for a gallon of gasoline at the New York Harbor is 58 cents. That means that the average price of a gallon of gas at the New York Harbor is lower than the average tax across the United States, which is 61 cents. So you'd be paying more in tax to buy the gasoline than the cost of the gasoline. I hope that sinks in. Currently, in Nixa, Missouri, and I've been reporting the gas prices in Nixa, Missouri, they keep falling. Today, according to GasBuddy.com, $1.64 per gallon is the price of gasoline in Nixa, Missouri. I'm sure it's coming down at stations near you. I'm sure of it. It's coming down all over the country. Now, it will continue to come down, in my opinion, until the refineries start shutting down, which is the next thing that's going to happen, which will cause a shortage. I expect there to be a shortage of gasoline. That's my opinion. Many people have heard that there are two payments coming from the federal corporation to slow down the rioting in the streets. But this money that the government is going to send your way, it was going to be in a couple days. Now it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, who knows? But this $1,000 or $1,200, it keeps changing, or $2,000 over two payments, will reappear as inflation. So you're going to allegedly receive some help, but that help is going to drive prices up very quickly, and it will evaporate that money that was sent to you by the federal government. You can buy gasoline right now, by the way, in Kentucky at 99 cents a gallon. The last time I remember gasoline at 99 cents a gallon was in 1992, when William Jefferson Blythe Clinton was president. Right now there's a Russia-Saudi price war. And I heard about price wars, gas wars. When my parents were young, gas was 8 cents a gallon. And that's because of price wars. So that's what's happening right now between Russia and the Saudis. Rich Eben, welcome. You're on the air.
Yeah, Vince, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, and I apologize for not being able to get back to you. Our phone has been nonstop.
Well, guess what?
Literally.
When you just said you're on the air, my whole phone just kind of fizzled out in a white noise. Just FYI. But
well, I think that's a signal. Rich, that's a transfer signal. That's normal.
Okay.
That's normal.
All right. Well,
go ahead.
I wanted to comment on some of the stuff you're saying about the virus. And we have to remember there's agendas out there. And I'm going to obviously have to do it after the break. But, there could be distractions for a lot of things like declassifications. And I want to mention some of these things that could be possible in the context that you were discussing over the last half an hour.
As long as it's fact-based, we're up for it. Rich Eben's with us. I'll be right back. So, class, this has been a warning from me to you that this is the real deal. Rich Eben?
Well, thank you, Vince. Yeah, first of all, folks, I just want to say I'm not saying that this isn't a real thing, but there could be agendas behind this. And I want to say one thing that's absolutely fact-based. Sometimes fear often equates to there's no confidence in government or the powers that be to tell the truth and help the little people, because the collateral damage always affects the little people. And I want to give you an example. It has nothing to do with the disease, but I want to share one example with you that kills people. I've read lots of articles about people who are lost in the woods. They're hiking, they're hunting, they get turned around, and you know what kills them? Fear. Because they don't know how to cope, they don't have the skill sets, whether it be to light a fire, to create a shelter, or they're afraid of the wild animals. And we have to put things in perspective. Because if the powers that be want to manufacture a paranoia hypochondriac, and basically all of a sudden they fix it, is this for increasing government credibility? Is it to dissolve paper currency? Could it be for martial law, big tech takeover? Could it be to reinforce a caste system? How about all these pedophilia indictments that were supposed to happen? Haven't you noticed all these big names, including Hollywood, getting this virus? Could they, quote-unquote, die behind the scenes now that there's no more funerals and autopsies allowed? Could they be hiding from prosecution? How about could this be to crash the economy or consolidate power with big corporations? Because I've mentioned in my Economic 101 updates many times, the expansions, the money, the bailouts are going to the big corporations and not the little guy. Like Vince just mentioned right before the break, could this be to create a hyperinflation and destroy the Federal Reserve note? Remember how the Democrats always say, never let a crisis go to waste. They're full of propaganda, lies, false flags, and hoaxes. They've said, we need to kill the economy so Trump doesn't win. If they basically, I don't believe in coincidences. Think about Russia, 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 Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Second hand, third hand, fourth hand information. Rumors, gossip, propaganda. Never let a crisis go to waste. Again, I'm not saying this isn't real. I'm just saying the timing is a heck of a coincidence with what's going on and the way everything's shutting down. And there's absolutely no way this economy is not going to be destroyed, because it's pushed us into a recession, and it could push us into a depression, especially if they just print money, and it goes, and all this money for years has gone to the banks, the manufacturers, the big boys, the big corporations. And the little people always are, again, collateral damage. Now, I want to mention a couple other things. Could this be a ploy where China buys all U.S. and Europe stocks on the cheap? Could this be to reduce our freedoms and liberties? Could this be done to end rallies, protests, citizen rights, and that where we have to vote by mail with a fix is easily done? So I wanted to put those things in perspective, Vince, because we're in uncharted territory right here, and there are always agendas behind the scene. But I want to put things in perspective regarding fear. We have to stand strong, and I just have a different philosophy, I guess, than some people. You know, growing up on the streets in New York City, and then I've been within 50 yards of a couple grizzly bears with a bow and arrow in my hand. I've had bears sniff my head when I was camping at night. I've walked up on mountain lions. Maybe, I've been called an adrenaline rush acquirer or something like that. And I just think that a lot of this is being taken out of context. I'm not saying this isn't a real virus. I'm just saying we need to look behind the scenes and see what these agendas usually are, because when you follow the money, power, and control addicts, eventually, just like this so-called Republican congressman getting rich on the stock market, this is Guy Barr. Like I always say, it's less left-right paradigm, more aristocracy managing and controlling the serfs. On that note, Vince, I appreciate you letting me chime in. I know you have a lot of stuff to talk about over the next 20 minutes, so I'll let you go. Happy TGIF to everybody, and I'll talk to you later, Vince.
That was Rich Sheehan. Well, there was a press conference with President Donald Trump 23 days ago, and he announced that there were 15 infected people in the United States of America 23 days ago. Now, we said that the numbers are doubling every few days. So we started out with 15 at the press conference. In New York City alone, there are over 4,000 today. Over 4,000. Now, I haven't heard a doctor, maybe I'm confused, but I've heard lots of opinions, lots of speculation. And the things that Rich Sheehan just mentioned, could they be true? Absolutely. Absolutely. But that does not take away from the fact that I believe that this virus is absolutely, positively real, and people are going to die. And what a lot of people are talking about is whodunit. And I'm saying, forget the whodunit for right now. Survive. Get what you need. Meet with your family. Tell those millennials in your life to get off the phone, sit down for dinner, and have no distractions. And talk about what's really happening. And how they, through their me-first attitudes, can get the rest of the family killed. Because the millennials, many of them believe that they're invincible. I had this very serious talk with Mrs. Finelli a few days ago. We were talking about millennials, and I said, I get it. I really do. So when I was the equivalent of a millennial, and when Mrs. Finelli was the equivalent of a millennial, we're just a few months apart in age, we had good jobs. And good jobs. And we had a nice house. And we were like a great example of middle-class life. Well, when you met people back then, I'm talking about in the 70s and the 80s, people would say, so what do you do? And you could tell them that, you were a supervisor or a manager or an assistant vice president or whatever it might have been. and you were defined by your job, or you were a level 1 researcher, or a level 2 researcher, or senior researcher, or junior researcher, or whatever it might have been, or a technician, or a senior technician, whatever it happened to be, you would define your job, which would define who you were. That would show your status in the world. So people identified with what they did, not who they were, but what they did. What they did defined who they were in social circles. So today, when we talk to millennials and we say, look, don't go to work because that's a really dangerous place to go, they go, yeah, but no, I have to go to work. Really? You have to go to work? Why? So you are willing to put yourself in harm's way and willing to put your family in harm's way because you have to go to work? Is that really true? Is that really true? The answer is, being at my age, 68, I wouldn't do it. I would not go to work. If I worked at Walmart, I'd say, listen, I'd like to take a vacation starting now. That's what I would say. And if the boss said, no, you can't do it, you've got to be at that cash register, I'd say, I can't do it. I can't do it. And that'd be the end of my cashier career at Walmart. Because I would put life and limb before work. But might I lose my house? I might. Might I lose my car if I had a car payment? I might. But this is so serious, you're going to find the word force majeure being used more and more often. What we're going to see is companies saying they can't pay their bills because their customers didn't pay them. And it's a domino effect. And what's going to happen is utility companies aren't going to get paid. Mortgage companies aren't going to get paid. Banks aren't going to get paid. Employees aren't going to get paid. And this is the second Great Depression. And I've heard that we might go into a recession. That's nonsense. We've already passed the recession. We're in the Depression. We are in the second Great Depression. Republican senators have introduced $1 trillion aid package. Is that because we might go into a recession? Or is that because we're in a depression? Obviously, we're in a depression. In New York, Governor Cuomo signed an unemployment benefit extension package as he warned of an astronomical jump in cases of coronavirus. The Treasury is thinking about 50 and 25-year bonds. 50 and 25-year bonds to finance the stimulus package. They don't know how to do it. A 50-year bond. India has halted incoming international flights for a week. That's for a week. That's until they see that it's worse than they thought. Then they'll implement a longer halt on incoming flights. Now, this can't be passed by animals, right? Hong Kong had people killing dogs that were walking around on the streets. Hong Kong finds that viruses are inside their second dog. Looks like dogs can carry the virus. The number of cases of infected people with the coronavirus in Spain climbed 28% overnight. The death toll in Italy is expected to pass China's on, well, by now. The Pentagon said that there are already 2,000 National Guardsmen deployed around the country. Why would they do that? I'm hearing people tell me that tolls on toll roads / bridges, the people that are manning and womening these toll plazas are not accepting cash. Why? Why aren't they accepting cash? Because cash carries the coronavirus. It's a great way to transport it. Now, Rich even said that You know, it's a great way to implement a cashless society. Well, heck, we've been trying to implement a cashless, not we, they have been trying to implement a cashless society for decades. There's a great reason. There's a great reason for everything. The corona panic is a great reason for everything. Like lockdown, like shortages, like collapsing the financial markets, etc. We'll be right back. Plus, there are people who have said on the alternative media that this is not a pandemic. I'm sorry to tell them that it is a pandemic, and it has been a pandemic. A pandemic is a disease that grows in geography and infections. So it spreads wide, goes across continents, and more people get infected. So the seasonality of the flu, this is not like that. This is a pandemic. There was a 100-page government plan marked for official use only, not for public distribution or release. It was obtained by the New York Times. It paints a very bleak picture of what's coming. In the projections, this document, if they're anywhere close to accurate, large numbers of Americans will die. The U.S. economy will completely implode, and we will see widespread civil unrest. In my opinion, as malls and stores and restaurants and factories and fabricators, engineering firms and more start closing, more and more start closing, right? It will be difficult to restart them. As older and more expert employees get sick and die, it will become almost impossible to restart. We are in this period of decline, in my opinion, for the next 20 years before any rebuilding just starts to get a foothold. Our lives will never be the same. That's my opinion, that our lives have been changed for our lifetime, at least. You see, what happened is we built our first machine centuries ago. And we used that machine to build another machine and then another machine. And it was not revolution that happened. It wasn't all of a sudden we had the internet. It was evolution. More and more products begot more and more sophisticated products. And that's how it happened. You know, I mentioned that when Volkswagen discontinued the Bug, or the Beetle as they like to call it, and they thought they made a mistake and they wanted to consider reintroducing it, that $3,000 vehicle would cost $60,000 or $65,000. When you destroy the tooling, and when you melt down the tooling, or you break up the tooling so no one else can use it, and then you decide, yeah, let's make it again, it's really, really hard to do. Really hard. I believe that this decline is not fixable. I believe the government is lying to us about the numbers. I believe the numbers are way worse than is being reported all over. I believe that we won't know where to put the bodies. We'll be digging burial pits that we light people on fire with this cheap gasoline that we've seen on the market. I'm sorry to say it, but you know, the employees who really know what they're doing, as they die off, the younger employees won't know what to do. They won't know how to fix it. Do you remember being a young employee when you had your very first job? Those of you who are around my age, you know, we learned from the senior guys. We had to ask them a million questions. Well, young people today aren't even smart enough to ask the questions. And we wanted to learn. We wanted to look good for our employers. We really wanted to. We wanted to make better products. We used to be proud of what we did. Now what happens with young employees, they say, I'd do a better job if they paid me. They're not paying me enough. That's what they say. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Now, in my opinion, this coronavirus has exploded into this global pandemic, and it will remain viable and infectious for a long time. Now, these droplets of infected material from the body, bodily fluids, can remain in the air for hours through air conditioning systems. They can remain viable to infect you on surfaces for up to, to days. And it can be detected on plastic and stainless steel after 3 days. It's still there. On cardboard, the virus is viable for about 24 hours. On copper, it seems to kill the virus more quickly, about 4 hours, and the virus is dead on copper. So in my opinion, all doorknobs, refrigerator handles, car door handles, keys, kitchen cabinet door pulls, toilet flush handles should all be exclusively made with copper. That's my recommendation to slow the spread. And they say that patients, if you're young, it's okay, you're going to make it. Roughly, 508 patients have been hospitalized between February and March. 38% were between the ages of 20 and 54. So the young can get it too. God help us. God help us. The GDP is going to get a lot of us killed. Meet with your family tonight. Take action immediately. Not Monday. Immediately.